everybody, welcome back to 5 Minute Gaming News, the show that's starting to clean up back here. We're doing it. To start with today, I wanted to talk about an article that I had read yesterday in the New York Times about Elden Ring and why it's so popular, written by author Brian Chen. Essentially, he says it's linked to the pandemic, that we spent 2 years running from COVID dragons and the like, and he brings up how in the beginning of the pandemic we had Animal Crossing as a return to normalcy, but now that we're here, well, it ends with a great quote from a video games editor of The Guardian, Kevin McDonald. It's not really one player versus the game, it's the entire community of players versus the game. And even though that is the quickest summary in the world, that last quote is completely apt and perfect for what Elden Ring is. However, I'm sure a lot of you, when you hear that the point of this article is that it's connected to the pandemic, are thinking, well, hold on. Elden Ring is a lot more than just our response to the pandemic. It has a legacy built to it. And that is exactly the point being made in a follow-up article from the Washington Post. In response, in the WAPO article, author Gene Park says the New York Times completely ignores the fact the game was pretty much from the start a guaranteed success. And while he does say the New York Times nails the idea that people like the freedom of choice in Elden Ring compared to real life where no one can seem to agree on anything, he wants to stress the success isn't cause of a global crisis. That line of thinking ignores the fact that Demon's Souls and Dark Souls games left an indelible mark on the games industry. He says From Software's titles became monuments to a style of game design that focused on overcoming challenges with intense focus, a grasp of the game's esoteric underlying rules and systems, and sometimes by summoning the help of friends through cooperative online play. He goes on to cite Dark Souls winning the Golden Joystick for the ultimate game of all time. And as a fellow winner, I get it. He talks about the quality of the Dark Souls games, the word of mouth, the rise of YouTube and Twitch, and much more. The success of Elden Ring had everything to do instead, he says, with how its developers designed and iterated on a successful formula for the last 11 years. Honestly, I think both are pretty good reads. One gives you a person's experience in the real world and what they're going through, and one gives you a more, this is the process of how these games got made and why they're so successful, and combined gives you kind of this perfect worldview of what makes Elden Ring so popular. And I think if you want to read both of them, you should. They are down below in the description. In other, news, SOC investors have asked Activision Blizzard shareholders not to vote for the acquisition by Microsoft. Back in January, it was announced that Microsoft was going to attempt to buy Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion with a B, the game industry's biggest acquisition ever. And so investors and stockholders are set to vote on that takeover April 28th, and only with their approval can it move ahead. Well, the SOC investment group has something to say about that. The group has been pretty critical of Activision Blizzard in the past months, even going as far as to send a letter to the company saying Bobby Kotick isn't doing enough to change the culture there. While we appreciate the improved tone and increased detail in CEO Kotick's recent letter to Activision Blizzard employees, customers, and shareholders, the changes Mr. Kotick has announced do not go nearly far enough to address the deep and widespread issues of equity, inclusion, and human capital management at the company, the letter reads. Well, now they've come out against the merger, citing two reasons. One, the transaction fails to properly value Activision and its future earnings potential, in significant part because it ignores the role of the sexual harassment crisis, and the Activision board's incompetent handling of it has played in delaying product releases and depressing the share price. And two, skeptical that any transaction with Microsoft or a similar acquirer would be viable given the shift in the climate of antitrust enforcement, as well as evident sources of potential harms to competition stemming from the merger. This second one, of course, comes after I'd recently reported that US senators like Bernie Sanders recently wrote the FTC about the merger and the troubles at Activision Blizzard. The letter then goes on to say, we do not believe that Activision shareholders should be looking to a transaction to rebuild the value lost by Activision management's failure to ensure workplace safety and equity, and by the board's failure to respond constructively to the burgeoning crisis. Damn. I don't really know much about these people. I'm not sure what their investor angle is here, but That's some real shit right there. Speaking of the real ones, everyone over on patreon.com/Jesse Cox. You're the realest there is, especially Scrungy Bungus, Ploops, and Pureby. None of those sound real at all. I got set up. Anyway, that is it for 5-Minute Gaming News. Thank you so much for all the support and all the comments and all the subscriptions and everything. It means the world to me. And I will see you tomorrow.